Hey guys, well, we've made it to our final session. So we've been talking about laying that foundation of biblical concepts and truths, what you believe, what you want to present in your ministry. We've talked about structuring our classroom to best present those biblical truths and concepts. We've talked about guiding behavior. So now we're going to talk about presenting the lesson. As I've mentioned before, there's great curriculum out there that kind of makes our job a little challenging because we have so many choices, and that's such a good thing. So once you have done the hard work and you've decided on the curriculum that best fits your personality, best fits your church, we want to use the time we have with our kids to make it all that we can to really be able to teach those biblical truths and concepts. So we all use different curriculum. So I'm not going to focus obviously on just one curriculum, but I think there's some truths that we can talk about that will help all of us to make the most of our curriculum. The first thing is you want to make sure that your lessons are volunteer friendly. I think one of the issues with curriculum is a good issue is that you get so much. I mean, it's really more than you can even use because good curriculum is going to be written for all different types of churches and different ways that people are going to want to present the material. So it's your job as a leader to filter through that and make it as simple and straightforward for your teacher as possible. I mean, it may be you, maybe a staff person teaching, but especially if it's a volunteer, you want to make that very user friendly. I love our curriculum. I've said it before, I use the Gospel Project, but I still make my own template because I want to make it just really simple for the leaders and so that they can present the main point to the kids as easily as possible. So make it user friendly. Even if the lesson is 10 pages, that's not what you want to give a volunteer. You want to give them a much more simplified version of it with the main point and then the activities that support it. I do encourage you to, if it comes with a leader study, make sure that your volunteers get to read that. The hope is that your teachers are preparing their hearts before they come on Sunday morning, Saturday night, whenever they're going to teach, that you really want them reading it at the beginning of the week. Send your lessons out at the beginning of the week so that they have time to prepare. I encourage my leaders to read the leader study, read the story actually from the Bible, maybe even read it from a children's Bible, so they can start thinking about what the story means to them, because then they can more easily tell it or relay it to the children that they're teaching. Okay, so we want to make it volunteer friendly. We want to make sure it has a very defined main point. What do we want to teach our children that day? And it doesn't have to be very complex, but it needs to be defined so that all the other activities are going to point to that main teaching point. So the main point being that the overall main point for me is that we've talked about this too earlier, is that the whole Bible is not just a book of stories, but it's one story that points to Jesus. And so we want to make sure that the overall point of when we teach is that. But you're gonna, for your individual lessons, it may be the point that God is good. Of course, it's simplified depending on your age level. But we want to make sure that we have a main point and that it's clear to your teachers and it's going to be clear to your kids. Okay. I believe that no age group is too young for a lesson. We start when they're the first time they come into our nursery, to our we call it our crawler room. Now, of course, it looks different from our 4 and 5-year-old room, but there is still structure. There is still a lesson. That youngest age group, of course, there's a playtime, or however old the child is. It may just be rocking with the worker, but there's some singing time. I always lay out. There's always books in the room, but I always lay out a particular book that goes along with the lessons that maybe their siblings are learning. There's some singing time. I do not sing, but when I'm in there, I do sing, and the babies do not seem to mind. They have not cried yet. But I also have a wonderful volunteer, a man who has, of course, we do live really close to Nashville, so I do have lots of musicians, but they love to come in and sing with the kids. If you've got teenagers that are learning an instrument, learning guitar, I'm just saying guitar because that's portable, and kids are a great audience for them to kind of to practice. If you can give them a song or two that they can learn with the kids, and that's a great way to have a lesson with those especially with those younger kids. So no group is too young for a lesson. Another really important part of lessons for preschoolers is snack. I want to go ahead and jump into snack, even though snack is usually, we do snack at the end of our lesson. It just kind of makes sense because it helps with behavior that we talked about earlier, when they know that they have snack to look forward to. Even with my itty bitties, they have some of the Puffs or Cheerios. We'll do that at the end, because they even know, okay, snack's coming, and then mom and dad come, and yay. And so it helps with them understanding the morning and how the structure is going to go. So I believe snack is important. For of course, you always want to be very, very safe with snack. You want to have allergy alerts. The check-in system automatically will give the child a sticker if they have an allergy. Got to be very, very careful with that, obviously. And choking. For our youngest one, our babies, we use Puffs, and then we go up to Cheerios. Now, with the older kids, that's where we have a lot of fun with snack. So with my older class, snack is never just snack. It is part of the lesson. I brought this container right here. So you don't have to spend a lot of money on the snack. I brought an example right here of something that we do. I do it several times a year. It's called Friendship Celebration Snack. And the last time I used this was Easter, because we were celebrating Jesus rising and being alive and celebrating that. But there's so many stories that you can celebrate. So I usually do a celebration snack with my older kids when I know that I have a lot of individual snacks and we need to eat them before they go bad. So what you do is you just bag up all the snacks that you've been using. Animal cookies. These are great. Anytime we have an animal in a Bible story, I pull out the animal cookies, because let's try to find that donkey that Jesus rode into Jerusalem on. I have some honeycombs in here. Honeycombs, we use these with John the Baptist, and he ate honey and locusts, and so here's some honeycombs. I always usually use marshmallows and pretzel sticks. You can build with those, so anytime you're talking about any kind of story that had buildings or anything like that, little pretzel sticks and marshmallows will be good. So I have some variety. I think I took some Cheerios from the other younger kids' classroom. So what you do is you make little baggies and you pass them out to all of the children at the table, and then you take a bowl and you let them open up their bag and dump it in there without the bag. So you just have the snack in there and put the lid on real tight. shake it up, and then everybody gets some of their friendship snack that they made with their friends. So it's a great way to use those leftover snacks. And so snacks are just, it makes it part of the lesson. It makes it a great way to end your lesson, and it reinforces, and it's something that the kids can really look forward to. So snack is important. So I think one more thing I want to talk about before we end for our time is, and I've talked about this when we were talking about the room setup, is craft time. Well, I don't really have a craft time, and I'll tell you why. Because some kids do not like craft, and they don't do well with craft, and then you're going to have some behaviors. I always offer craft as an activity or a center. Even if you don't have a table, you can still do crafts. Clipboards are great. With some really, you can do crayons. Crayons sometimes get a little boring for kids, but colored pencils, or even like different colored crayons, like the fluorescent ones, markers, use your best judgment on that. I'm not a real crafty person, but what I have discovered is, you can Google everything and find a craft that will go with your lesson. And then I try to make it really simple, not a lot of materials, free or very little money spent, and not complicated but time intensive. Because time intensive means you're engaging the kids. You can talk about the lesson while they're doing the craft. You're maximizing your space, because while you got kids doing some crafts, you have space for kids to do other activities. Real quick, I want to share this with you. This was our Easter craft. So it's just cross. And here's what I mean by time intensive. Now, for the older kids, what they had to do is, I had a ton of just tissue paper. I cut in little squares. So what they did, and I loved it because they get to really use fine motor, they would bend it like this, take their glue stick. They love using glue sticks, and they were going to glue it on. And as you can see, that's going to take, it took quite a while to fill up the cross. And some of them would get tired, and we would just put it aside so they could take home. But some of my kids sat there for a really long time and did this craft, which is good because Easter services tend to go long. You can even do it with younger kids. We just did bigger pieces, and we would help them glue on. So again, intentional. Use it to maximize your space, maximize your time. Intentional. So everything about that lesson, when those kids walk in to the time they leave, use it to teach your biblical truths and concepts. Begin and end well. Begin with inviting activities. We talked about what we can do in the middle, that middle time, and then end well. Make sure you're ending with kids engaged, that you're having an opportunity once again to emphasize that main point of your lesson. So gosh, I've enjoyed so much talking with you guys, and I just wish you the best of luck, and enjoy those preschoolers, and use everything you have just to develop those kids so they have a loving and growing relationship with Jesus Christ. Blessings.